rapid pace out here early in the second. Levert, hey, knocks it down. Rondo's on the run. Stops, gets Love. Love fires. Cavs reset with a fresh 14. Under 3 to go in the half. Garland works on Holiday. Toss it for a moment. Shovels to Mobley. Garland, step back three, drew a foul.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening live, episode number 47 of the All Things Cleveland Cavaliers podcast. I'm Brandon Lewis, the general manager of Believe Win Media. Here with me today is not the vice president of operations of Believe Win Media, Joey Schneider. He is in Hawaii, listening to us from the beautiful Hawaii sun. Instead, I am here with the co-manager of the Believe Land Media Prep podcast with owner and operator Kevin Slides, the one and only Joe Ewell. Joe, how are you?
I'm good, Brandon. I'm good. I'm really happy I get to step in for Joey. You know, I'm pretty sure that both of us would be much rather be in Hawaii filming this, you know, enjoying that sunset view and everything.
Well, I'll tell you what, Hawaii is a great place, but right now in the 216, everything is popping. Of course, we got football season right around the corner this Sunday with the Browns and the Panthers. You got the Cleveland Guardians in a 3-team race for the AL Central. But the Cleveland Cavaliers may be the talk of the town because of what happened approximately a week ago today. The Cleveland Cavaliers got Donovan Mitchell, a.k.a. Spider, from the Utah Jazz. And Joe, I know this was one of your biggest trade targets for the Cavs this offseason.
Yeah, no, most definitely. I would have liked to see us give up a little bit less for him. I think Spite is a really good player. At times I think he can be overrated. I think he does have some flaws in his game, but I think that's also because he really didn't have any backcourt or wing help in Utah. So, every single time that there was a guy who had to take the shot, everybody knew it was him. But, on the Cavs, you have Garland now, giving him another replacement in that area. And, Mitchell's known to play very well, obviously, with a giant dude down in the paint, and we have two of those. So, that's going to be something nice. I don't think it's going to be that much of a shift as people think it's going to be. A lot of people are talking about he's making that jump from the West to the East, and the West is better, all this and all that. And I really don't think the West is better anymore. I think the East is a more competitive conference. You take the Warriors out of the West, really, and you don't have any true juggernaut dynasty teams. I mean, you have LeBron, you have Luka over there, D-Book. You have good teams, but the East is, it's where it's at, I think, right now in today's day and age. The Cavs, they gave up a lot for him. I'm really, really, really sad to see Abaji go. As all of you know, if you guys watched anything that I've talked about drafting with, I'm still very high on Abaji. To see him go, I'm a little sad. But to get Donovan Mitchell, I'm stoked. I'm excited to see how it works, and I can't wait to see him in a Cavs uniform on the court.
Yeah, I think, me and Joey did talk about this last week. The Cavs, though, it's like, yes, they gave up Colin Sexton. Yes, they gave up Abaji. Yes, they gave up Lauri Markkanen. But also, when you get an opportunity to get a player of Donovan Mitchell, you cannot turn it down. And plus, the Cavs didn't really give up, in my opinion, that much. They didn't give up a king's ransom for him. And now I think you're really going to see Mitchell's potential, because you're right. Mitchell really didn't have anybody in Utah. Yes, he had Rudy Gobert, who's a great defensive center, one of the best rebounders. He's a former defensive player of the year, I believe multi-time defensive player of the year, but he's not really a scorer. Well, now he's got Jared Allen, who can score the basketball underneath. He's got Evan Mobley, who me and Joey have both said is going to be sensational. We both believe that he is a phenomenal talent that's going to reach superstar status. And Darius Garland, who, if he's not in superstar status yet, he's certainly in star status, the way he carried the Cavs at the end of last season. And the Cavs, I believe, and I know there's been a lot of concerns, about Colin Sexton and Donovan Mitchell. Maybe have the same style, and Garland and Sexton didn't really work out well together. But now I believe the Cavs have finally solved that issue that plagued them from midway point of the season to the end of last season, and that was when Darius Garland was not on the court. You now have somebody that outside of Garland can create his own shot and run the offense. And as you mentioned, with Mitchell being, not the only superstar out there, you cannot double team him. You cannot double team Darius Garland. You cannot double team Mobley. You really can't double team Allen. And if Okoro, who we now project to be the small forward of this team, if reports are true that Okoro's game has really stepped up here going into year 3, this Cavs team is one of the most balanced teams in all of basketball.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about it, Brandon. I think that the Cavs front office has done a really phenomenal job with building this young core. Everything starts with a nuclei. And we have a good nucleus right now. We have a good core group of guys that are young that play very well together. It seems like if you were playing like a video game, that their chemistry would be in the 90s with how each style of play works together. And I think they all complement each other well. And I think those role guys on the bench really, really complement each other well also. I really love that we got Ricky Rubio back. I think that's a huge piece. He did really well in Cleveland before he had that injury last season. And I was sad to see him go down. He was a very key piece in our early success at the beginning of last season. LeVert is a solid player. Kevin Love is still, Kevin Love's made a statement last year that, I've hung on to because I think it's really important in the hindsight of it that, he said this is the most fun he's had other than that 2016 run when they won the title. And, that's a lot. You saw it in the previous season, 2 seasons ago, you saw him throwing the ball at a teammate, kind of a temper tantrum because he wasn't starting in a way. And that can be tough for some guys. Kevin Love has been a superstar time and time again, coming from Minnesota over to Cleveland with our big 3, if you would say. And, I think it was a role that he had to accept. And I think that once he accepted that role and he bought into what his job was in Cleveland last year, you saw him producing at all-star level, really, again. He was averaging almost a double-double in the back end of the season. And that's why the Cavs traded for him back in, 2014, was because he was averaging a double-double. He was averaging 20 and 20 in Minnesota. And you saw him at the end of the season averaging 20 and 10. So I'm excited for this because, like you said, there's a lot of firepower. But I do have to say I like the picks that we got rid of. Because if you're the Cavs GM and you're in the Cavs front office, I love that we didn't give a pick away until 2025. And, the reason being is that this team's not perfect. This team still needs help. And it still gives the Cavs 2 draft classes to, go out and find some guys who can really be some core pieces in a championship run in the next year or 2, if not now. So, I love the move. Like I said, I'm sad to see Abaji go, but I'll always take proven over potential.
Yes, and I completely agree with you on that. Of course, the Cavs do have a 2nd-round pick in 2023. Last week, I mistakenly said that pick did go to Golden State. I misread that pick is actually who has the best record. The Cavs are Golden State. That's where the pick will fall for the Cavs. So they have a 2nd-round pick in 2023. The 1st-round pick will go to Indiana. I believe that was for the kind of Rubio sign and trade deal that happened this offseason. And then in 2024, they have a 1st-round pick as well. But I think in the NBA, and I have always said this, and I understand that draft classes are getting deeper, but I believe in the NBA, outside the top 10, especially now if you're in the Cavs case, where you're going to be more than likely in the late 20s every year in the draft. It's going to be really, really hard. Now, obviously, we've seen some exceptions. Some guys for Golden State come to mind. Your Draymond Green, your Jordan Pooles. I believe Desmond Bain as well was a 2nd-round pick. So yep. So there are some guys that you can see down the line that could develop, but really in the NBA, it's rare. And as we know in the NBA, it's really all about the talent, more so than the NFL, more so than the MLB. Usually, talent and chemistry wins out nowadays. So if you're the Cavs, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind. I know in the NBA, obviously, you can't trade back to back. You have to do it every other year. But giving up, what was it, 2025, 2027, 2029 first round picks, you're
Mhm.
expected to compete for a championship at that point in time anyway. So I don't really know how much that's going to affect the Cavs in the future.
Yeah, and I love what the Utah Jazz did as well. I think with them getting rid of Gobert and going to sending him to Minnesota, they got a lot of reassurance there for him. And then when that kind of happened, they're like, all right, do we build our team around somebody, like Donovan Mitchell, who's very talented, but he's on the older end in a way, you could say. It's not like he's crazy young. He's 25, and he's young, but he's not Colin Sexton young.
Yeah, he's not
You
19. He's
know,
not a 20-year-old kid, right?
right? Exactly, and market in as well. They're getting. You get Abaji, you get a bunch of draft picks. They got draft picks from the T Wolves, so I thought it was a good trade for both sides. I've been wanting the Cavs. I wrote an article about it. I've been wanting the Cavs to get rid of Sexton for a while now, and you know this, Brandon. I was never high on Sexton. I think he's a good player. I thought that he was overhyped the year that he was an All-Star, though.
So me and you feel the same exact way about Sexton. And it's funny because for months, Joe, for months, I mean, since the season ended, me and Joey sat here for probably 3 months and said, what is going on with Sexton? How does Sexton view himself versus how do the Cavs view him? Because when July came and the Cavs offered him that qualifying offer, he didn't take it. And so we're sitting here wondering, what do the Cavs have planned for him? Do they plan for him to start? Do they plan for him to trade him? Do they plan for him to come off the bench? I was always an advocate of. I did not think that Garland and Sexton together on the same court worked. I would have loved to see, again, obviously getting Donovan Mitchell was worth it, but if the Cavs did not get Donovan Mitchell and Sexton were to come back, I have been advocating on the show. I would have loved to see Sexton come off the bench and be that six-man for this Cavs team, because I think on this team, that's where his role would have been. Though I think in Utah, obviously he's going to start. He's going to put up his points. He's going to do very similarly to what he did for the Cavs when they were not perennial contenders, and that was score a lot of points for. And again, Utah's, we'll see how they do. They certainly got a lot of pieces, but they're certainly not going to be in championship contention over there. But yeah, Colin Sexton, a very pulverizing player, if you will. It's funny, Joe. I feel like he's one of the most debated Cavs in the last decade. It's
Most definitely.
Either people really like him and they think that he's going to be, an all-star type guard, or there's people that are in you in my case, where it's like he is a good to okay guard, but he's not going to be that all-star, that person to take you to the next level to lead your franchise.
Yeah, touch on what you said with that in two parts. With Sexton, I think that he's a good basketball player. I just don't think he's a good basketball player in this generation. I think the style of guard that Colin Sexton plays like would have been a lot better in the early 2000s or the late 90s. And, I'm only 21, but I still know the type of ball that was played then. I think that he would have been a lot better of a fit. It's not like he has a crazy good three ball. It's not like he has a crazy good mid range either. And that can hurt you in today's day and age. And it did. If the Cavs didn't get Sexton, I would have loved to see them set the same package up for Klay Thompson. If they didn't get Donovan Mitchell, I would have loved them to see the same exact package go for Klay Thompson. And I think that there would have been a chance for it. Biggest reason being, Golden State just won a title, so they're not going to change much. But let's say they don't win the title, let's say Celtics pull off a miracle. I think Klay would have been in conversation, genuinely, because Jordan Poole, holy crap, kid can play, and he proved he's an all-star. He was an all-star this year, and he proved that he can play at that level. So you add him there, you get Sexton, you get Marketing, you get Abaji, you get all these picks and everything, and now you don't have Klay Thompson's contract either. So when Jordan Poole does want an extension, you have the room to get him that. Sexton's been wanting to be on a winning team for some time now. That's going to satisfy him for taking a pay cut. I think it would have worked. And I would have loved to see Klay Thompson in a Cavs uniform.
Yeah, I mean, Klay, as we know, obviously one of the best shooters of all time, next to Steph Curry, all those years in Golden State. We saw Klay. Obviously, there was a lot of speculation. Maybe he's not the same player to the way he performed in the finals. I was never a believer of that. Listen, he had two very bad knee injuries back-to-back years. It's going to take him a while, and you could see flashes. Now, do I think he's the defensive player he was 3-4 years ago? I do not. I don't think he's in that elite company anymore. Do I think do I think he'd be a good player? Yes. You tell me you disagree on that. Go ahead and elaborate.
I disagree. Klay Thompson's still he's top 20 player in the league, top 15.
Now, it's funny, Joe, because I had conversations where a couple years ago I was saying I think Klay Thompson, you can make an argument, he's a top 10 NBA player. And I got a lot of pushback for it. But I do think that back then when Golden State was in their run, he was certainly a top elite defensive player. Now, I do think that because of all those knee injuries, I'm sorry to disagree with you. I don't think he's at that point. Do I think very good, though? And do I think he can make a difference on a Cavs team if they were to make that deal? Absolutely, I do. But to get back to Mitchell, would you be more happy, I guess, per se? Would you have rather taken a Klay Thompson or a Donovan Mitchell deal?
Klay Thompson.
Okay.
For two reasons.
It's intriguing.
2 reasons.
Go ahead.
One, Klay Thompson's proven more than Donovan Mitchell. Knees or no knees, he's proven. 2, we talked about why Sexton's not a good guard. Klay Thompson translate to today's day and age guard even more. And Darius Garland pulls a lot of attention, just like a Steph Curry. Pulls a lot of attention. And Klay Thompson's, and I'll go to my grave saying this, his biggest strength isn't shooting. His biggest strength is the ability that he has to get open without the ball in his hand. Now the shooting translates to it, but he wouldn't be that open when he takes those shots, because everybody always says, oh, he can't make shots with players in his face, because he doesn't have to. He gets open.
I agree.
He gets open. And Darius Garland's really good at distributing the ball, but he's also really good at gaining attention. You see a lot of shots that Garland takes in the lane, and there's 2-3 guys swatting up for it. Now, does he make those? Yeah, sometimes. Is he going to have to? He's got Klay Thompson sitting out on the corner? Hell no.
Now, we know the Cavs' identity is defense. We know Donovan Mitchell is not the best defender. But when you have Isaac Okoro, who is right now, I think, one of the best defenders today in the NBA, when you add those twin towers with Evan Mobley, with Jared Allen in the middle, if Donovan Mitchell can play at least plausible defense on the defensive end, I think it will be a Golden State situation where they kind of hide Steph Curry on defense because he's not the greatest defender. Obviously, Garland at 6'1" is not the greatest defender. Now, Mitchell is short too. I believe he's also 6'1", but he has a 6'10" wingspan. I'm really excited to see how the starting lineup does, as well as you mentioned the bench. You know, you got Ricky Rubio, you have Kevin Love. You're gonna have guys like a Dean Wade, a Robin Lopez. These veteran guys.
Dylan Windler.
Dylan Windler, who we will get to here in a minute. Guys that really are gonna be able to contribute at least till Ricky Rubio comes back. I know that they obviously they lost a little bit on the bench with Abaji, and who knows with Markkanen if he was gonna start or not. We'll see if Karis LeVert can kind of get back into that role that he was in Brooklyn, rather than the guy he was at the end of last season, because that was a complete disaster in the play-in tournament for the Cavs. So we'll see. I mean, I think there's certainly some questions on the bench, but I hope that they, can figure out this rotation, because last year they did not really have a set rotation. It kind of felt like guys didn't really know their role, especially late in the season, and injuries could have played to that. But I think the Cavs now easily have a top 5 starting lineup in the NBA. And if that bench unit can contribute like they did last year, the Cavs, you can make an argument, are one of the deepest teams in all of the league.
That's a bold take. Top
Well,
5 starting lineup in the NBA.
well, think about it. They have at least 4 All-Stars. Think about it. Garland, All-Star. Mitchell probably going to be an All-Star. Jared Allen was an All-Star last year. Evan Mobley is going to be a generational talent. He's going to be an All-Star.
Mm-hmm.
Evan Mobley is a monster, Joe.
I agree. I'm not saying I don't agree with that, Brandon. I don't know if I agree with the top 5 starting lineup in the league. Regardless of all stars, how do they play together?
It's a fair point.
And we talk about and we agree that we take proven over potential. I'm still taking, regardless of what happens, I'm still taking the Suns starting lineup over the Cavs.
See, I'm not.
I don't. They won a ring.
What have the Suns done? The Suns haven't won a ring.
They won a playoff game. They won a ring 2 years ago.
No, they didn't. The Bucks did. What ring did the Suns win?
Oh shit, my bad. My bad.
What ring did the Suns win?
NBA Finals with this same starting lineup, basically. They don't have to play in a play-in game, and they win their first round matchup.
Okay, but the Cavs were going to be a top 4 seed last year, more than likely prior to Mobley now and both went down to the All-Star break. They weren't the same team.
Everybody has injuries, but that's the joy.
But last year the Cavs cannot overcome it because they didn't have that opposite score that now they have with Mitchell. I said it last week. I think you can make an argument right now. The Cavs are right behind Milwaukee as the second best team in the East. I take them over Boston right now. The only reason why Boston won that semifinal matchup last year in Milwaukee is because Middleton went down. I don't think they're better than Milwaukee, but I don't trust Boston. I don't trust Philly. I don't really trust Miami. They're getting older. I don't trust anybody else in the East. And the Cavs are young. Their oldest starter is 25 years old.
I think right now, proven over potential. I'm probably putting the Cavs in the East as 6, 5, and just listen. And I hope they prove me wrong, but I'm taking the Nets over them.
Whatever that's done.
I'm taking the Sixers. The Nets beat the Cavs.
Okay, but again, the Cavs did not have Jared Allen in that game, and they just got swept by Boston. They proved nothing in that game.
I'm taking the Nets, the Nets Celtics, are a wild the card, 76ers, the Heat, and the Bucks over the Cavs.
Okay, I mean, you can certainly make a debate. The Cavs are in that top 4. I mean, you can make an argument, for Boston. You could certainly make the argument, but I'm sorry. Brooklyn, no. I'm sorry. I get it. They have the potential. Brooklyn has the potential to be a top 5 team in the NBA. But you just mentioned, how do they play together? We don't know how Ben Simmons is going to play with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. We don't know that chemistry mess of a situation.
But we know Kyrie and KD play good together. But do we now
know that, though, based off of what happened this offseason with Durant asking for a trade and clearly Kyrie trying to get to Los Angeles, and that didn't happen? So, no, we don't know. We don't know what that situation is going to be.
I don't know. I hope the Cavs prove me wrong. I truly do. And I think they will. I can't give them a top 5 starting lineup across the NBA without seeing them play together. I can't.
No, it's fair. And Joe, I got to tell you, you are pulling a me from last season. Because let me tell you a quick story, and then we will get into the Dylan Windler topic, I promise. When we first started this show, episode number 1, way back in October, Joey Schneider said the Cavs are going to be a 500 team. They're going to make the play-in tournament. And I said, nah, Cavs are going to win about 19, 20 games. I was really pessimistic on the Cavs. I did not like their future. And Joey has proved me wrong. And Joey mentions it over every other podcast. I was completely down on the Cavs last year. And this year, it feels like it's completely flipped around. It's amazing because I've always said in the NBA, it's the easiest sport out of the big 4, I believe, to rebuild. You do have to add a couple draft picks, which I think the Cavs have done. You have to have some luck in the draft and find some talent. But if you hit that 1 or 2 superstar player, you can easily become in contention. And the Cavs, who 2 years ago now were one of the worst teams in the NBA. You can at least agree with me now. They are at least a playoff team, if not close to being a potential championship contender.
Yeah, I think they're a contender to win the East. No, that's not a doubt in my mind at all. That's not a doubt in my mind at all. My biggest thing is just how well does I think it will work, but how well will it work? If and how well the bench is. I hate Chetty Osman with a burning passion, and I hate how much he gets playing time. I've hated him since we've had him. Whenever we got the dude, I wish we would have traded him in this trade. I would have, I would have bought a Chetty Osman Utah Jazz jersey, just in spite that he's not a Cleveland Cavalier anymore.
Well, let's get to one of the bench players that is on the Cleveland Cavaliers, a guy who has dealt with injuries, but a guy who's got some potential. One of our great Twitter followers, his name on Twitter is Savvy Gamer. You can follow him at Tyler Daniel Bell. Savvy, thank you for the question. Thanks for listening to ATC every single week. He asked the question. I know you said that you love Dylan Windler. He has asked the question, Joe. This is a very interesting question. Will Dylan Windler become the next Danny Green or Joe Harris for the Cavs? Meaning a guy who did not get much playing time for the Cavs, and then he becomes a really good player somewhere else.
I think he would be if the Cavs get rid of him. I just don't see the Cavs getting rid of him. I think Cleveland's going to buy into the bench role that they just got. Understanding that those guys that you're taking with the picks that you got rid of and the little amount of picks that you have, that a guy like Windler, who has the potential to be really healthy and be a really good role player, like a Danny Green or like a Joe Harris or even an Ingles, I think that the Cavs realize what potential they have there. I'm high on Windler, man. I told you that. I love his shot. I love the way that he plays. I liked him at Belmont. I was really happy when the Cavs took him. When they took him in general. So, I've been high on this guy for a while. And I think that if he gets his opportunity and can stay healthy, he'll be fine and he'll be successful and will help the Cavs. But the injury thing is the biggest thing. And, I think that that's his biggest setback. I don't think it's that Bickerstaff doesn't want to play him or that the front office doesn't want to see him on the court. I think it's the fact that he just can't get healthy.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like every time he goes out there, he's leaving the court with a concussion or another, injury. And I think, when you take a look at this Cavs bench, obviously we think NATO is going to be the backup point guard until Ricky Rubio comes back. But then you got Caris LeVert, you got Kevin Love, you got Robin Lopez. But at that 3 spot now, obviously with the Donovan Mitchell and Abaji and Laurie Market no longer on the team, it really could open up a bench spot, for a Dylan Windler, for a, Dean Wade, for a Lamar Stevens, so along those lines to really come in and fill that spot. And again, we don't know how these rookies are going to pay out. You got Luke Travers, you got Isaiah Mobley, who could also potentially making the team. So I think there's going to be a lot of competition in there. I do not think that your favorite player in the world, Chetty Osman, is going to be on this team come opening night. I know that the Cavs were trying to trade him in that Rubio package. They could not get it done, but I don't know, man. I think that
nobody wants him.
I think that Dylan Windler has some potential, but I'm not as high on him as you are. The injuries really scare me, and we'll see how he does. If he gets a shot and he produces, then I think, yes, he could be a fixture in this rotation. But I also think this is his last shot. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe the Cavs find a deal for him. Maybe he finds success on a little bit of a team that is dealing with growing pains, because I don't think the Cavs can wait on potential anymore. The Cavs are going to find the best team that they can possibly put out there, because they're trying to compete for the best they can for the Larry O'Brien Trophy this season.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think they could be shopping him, but I hope they do wait on him, because I would hate to see him go somewhere else. I'm like I said, I'm high on Dylan Windler. I think there's still a lot that he can give this team, and I think he enjoys being in Cleveland. I think he enjoys being, being the glue of the team. Those guys are important. The little do people know those guys are important people who, like a Dean Wade, people who may not get all the playing time in the world, but everybody on the team loves them. There's nobody that hates them.
Yeah, and I mean, Dean Wade, me and Joey mentioned a little bit last season. Dean Wade had probably the weirdest minutes on the team last year, where some minutes he played 30, 35 minutes. Other games he really would not play at all. But he never complained. He kept his head down. And you're right, those glue guys are important because increasingly in the NBA now, chemistry and depth, man. Chemistry and depth matters a lot, and I believe that the Cavs have it. I think there's going to be a lot of good competition in training camp and in preseason for playing time, and we'll see how things develop. But this has been a really fun episode of ATC. Thank you, Joe, for coming on. Thank you so much. We appreciate you giving all your great insight. Of course, you are the co-host of the Believe When Media Prep Podcast. You also love the NBA draft and all things basketball, and we hope to bring you on sometime this Cavs season.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Appreciate Brandon having me on. Appreciate, being able to be the guy who steps in for Joey and everything. And, I'm excited for this Cavs season, man. I'm excited.
Make sure to check out Joe and owner operator of Believe When Media, Kevin Sledge, wherever you get your Believe When Media podcast. That'll be every Sunday night going over the Believe When Prep high school games of the week, as well as interviews with star players and coaches throughout the week as well. Thank you, Joe, for all your work you do with high school sports.
Thanks, Brandon.
Yep, and as always, we will see you guys next week on episode number 48 of ATC. Unfortunately, Joey will be out one more week while in Hawaii, but the co-host of the new Brown and Orange podcast, Clarence Wilson, will be joining me to talk all of things Cavs. We'll see you guys then, and as always, let them know!